Have you ever waited for that perfect wave of motivation to hit before starting something important? Maybe it's that workout program, the business idea, or the creative project you've been putting off. You wait and wait, but that magical motivation just doesn't show up. We've all been there. I spent years of my life as a motivation junkie, watching inspirational videos, reading success stories, collecting quotes, all while accomplishing very little of what truly mattered to me. Then I discovered something that changed everything. The most successful people in the world aren't sitting around waiting for motivation. They're building something far more powerful, something that works whether you feel like it or not. Today I'm going to show you exactly what that is and how to build it systematically in your own life. This isn't about forcing yourself to do things you hate. It's about creating a sustainable system that makes discipline almost automatic. By the end of this video, you'll understand why motivation has been failing you, and you'll have a clear blueprint for building the one thing that successful people rely on instead. If you're tired of the endless cycle of motivation and burnout, this might be the most important video you watch this year. Let's dive in. Before we talk about what works, let's address why chasing motivation ultimately fails. Motivation is like a fair weather friend. It's great when it's there, but completely unreliable when you really need it. And there's a scientific reason for this. Motivation is primarily driven by dopamine, a neurotransmitter that spikes when we anticipate rewards. The problem: dopamine is designed to decline once a behavior becomes familiar. This is why new goals feel exciting at first, but that excitement inevitably fades. I call this the motivation trap. A cycle that looks like this. You feel inspired and set ambitious goals. You take action while motivation is high. Motivation naturally decreases as the novelty wears off. You struggle to continue without that emotional drive. You eventually stop, feeling like a failure. You wait for motivation to return before trying again. Sound familiar? The worst part is what this does to your self-image. Each time this cycle repeats, you internalize the belief that you lack discipline or can't stick with things. But the truth is, you've been relying on the wrong fuel source. Let me share a personal example. Years ago, I decided to write a book. For the first week, I was on fire, writing for hours, buzzing with ideas. Then week 2 hit, and suddenly writing felt like pushing a boulder uphill. My motivation had vanished. I interpreted this as a sign that maybe I wasn't meant to be a writer after all. What I didn't understand then is that this pattern is completely normal. Motivation is supposed to fade. It's not a character flaw. It's human biology. The people we admire for their discipline aren't experiencing constant motivation. They've simply built something that works regardless of how they feel on any given day. So what's the alternative to motivation? It's something I call identity-based habits. While motivation focuses on outcomes, I want to lose weight. Identity-based habits focus on becoming a different kind of person. I am someone who exercises daily. This subtle shift changes everything. Here's why identity is so powerful. When your actions stem from who you believe yourself to be, they no longer require willpower or motivation. They simply feel like the natural expression of your identity. You're not forcing yourself to do something. You're simply being who you are. Think about it. If you deeply believe I am a healthy person, skipping workouts creates internal conflict. Exercise becomes the path of least resistance because it aligns with your self-image. You don't need motivation to brush your teeth each night because being someone who maintains basic hygiene is part of your identity. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, puts it perfectly. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. The key insight here is that discipline isn't primarily about forcing yourself to do difficult things. It's about gradually shifting your identity so those things no longer feel like such a struggle. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds great, but you can't just decide to change your identity overnight. And you're absolutely right. Identity change requires a strategic approach. Here's my 3-step framework for building identity-based habits that create lasting discipline. Step 1. Start by asking yourself, who do I need to become to achieve my goals? Be specific. Instead of someone who's in shape, try someone who makes physical movement a daily priority, or someone who prioritizes nutritious foods. Then articulate why this identity matters to you. Connect it to your core values. For example, being someone who writes daily matters because self-expression is central to who I am. This deliberate identity choice becomes your compass for all future decisions. Step 2. The surprising truth about identity change is that it happens through accumulated evidence, not overnight transformation. Start with tiny actions that confirm your new identity, what I call minimum viable habits. These should be so small that they feel almost laughably easy. For example, if you're building a writer's identity, write 1 sentence daily. If you're building an athlete's identity, do 1 push-up daily. If you're building a mindful person's identity, take 3 conscious breaths daily. The size of the action doesn't matter. What matters is that each time you complete it, you're gathering evidence that supports your new self-image. This is who I am now. Consistency trumps intensity here. It's far better to do something tiny every day than something ambitious occasionally. Here's where most people go wrong. They only track outcomes, pounds lost, pages written, but neglect to track identity alignment. Create a simple daily check-in by asking, did my actions align with my chosen identity today? This shifts your focus from results, which can take time, to process, which you can control immediately, and critically celebrate each day you act in alignment with your identity. Recognition and positive reinforcement accelerate this identity shift. Let me share a client example that illustrates this process beautifully. Michael wanted to build a daily meditation practice but kept failing despite high motivation. When we switched to an identity approach, everything changed. First, he defined his identity as someone who prioritizes mental clarity. Notice this is broader than just a meditator. It connects to a deeper value. Second, he started with just 1 minute of meditation daily, his minimum viable habit. Third, he created a simple tracking system, placing a checkmark on his calendar each day he meditated, along with a brief note about how it made him feel. Within 3 months, Michael wasn't just meditating consistently. He had naturally increased to 20 minutes daily without any added willpower. More importantly, meditation no longer felt like something he had to force himself to do. It was simply part of who he had become. Now that you understand the framework, let's explore some practical techniques to reinforce your new identity. Your environment constantly reinforces or contradicts your identity. Redesign it to make identity-aligned actions the path of least resistance. For example, if you're building a reader's identity, place books on your pillow, not your phone. If you're building a health-conscious identity, prepare vegetables at eye level in your fridge. If you're building a productive identity, set up your workspace the night before. Each visual cue serves as a reminder of who you're becoming. The language you use, both internally and externally, shapes your identity. Practice these language shifts. Instead of, I'm trying to exercise more, say, I'm someone who moves my body daily. Instead of, I can't eat that junk food, say, I choose foods that serve my energy and health. Instead of, I have to work on my project, say, this is my time to create. Pay particular attention to what you say after I am. These statements are powerful identity reinforcers. We naturally conform to the identities prevalent in our social groups. Surrounding yourself with people who already embody your desired identity accelerates your transformation. This doesn't necessarily mean abandoning existing relationships, but it does mean intentionally seeking out communities where your new identity is the norm. Join groups, classes, or online communities where your desired behaviors are standard. Even following social media accounts that reinforce your new identity can help. Even with the best system, you'll occasionally act in ways that contradict your chosen identity. How you respond to these moments is crucial. Create a simple recovery protocol. Acknowledge the gap without judgment. Reaffirm your identity. This action doesn't align with who I am. Take one tiny action that reinforces your identity. Continue the pattern. Remember, discipline isn't about perfection. It's about how quickly you return to your identity after deviations. Here's a powerful truth that most discipline advice misses. The ultimate goal isn't discipline for its own sake. It's alignment between your actions and your deepest values. When your identity is built around what truly matters to you, discipline doesn't feel like self-control or restriction. It feels like authenticity, like you're finally living in accordance with what matters most. This explains why some people seem effortlessly disciplined in certain areas while others struggle. The difference often isn't willpower, it's identity alignment. Ask yourself, if discipline in this area came effortlessly, what would that say about who I truly am? The answer often reveals the identity that will sustainably drive your actions. We've covered a lot of ground today, from understanding why motivation ultimately fails us to building a complete system for identity-based discipline. Let's recap the key insights. Motivation is temporary by design. It's not a character flaw when it fades. Sustainable discipline comes from identity alignment, not willpower. Identity is built through consistent small actions, not dramatic changes. Your environment, language, and community all shape your identity. True discipline feels like authenticity, not restriction.